The desperate deal. Meera Patel pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the bus window, watching raindrops race each other down the pane. The eviction notice burned in her pocket 72 hours until she'd be homeless. Again, the daycare had fired her last week budget cuts, and her savings were gone. Her phone buzzed. "Unknown number, Miss Patel. James Wilson here. About your nanny application." The voice was crisp. "Mr. Sterling would like to meet you tonight. Meera's stomach flipped. She hadn't applied to any 8 p.m. The Sterling Tower penthouse. The line went dead. The elevator soared silently to the 90th floor. Meera smoothed her thrift store blazer, suddenly aware of the hole in her tights. The doors opened directly into a foyer larger than her entire apartment. "Ah, Miss Patel." A silver-haired man, James, presumably smiled. "This way." The office smelled of leather and expensive whiskey. Behind the mahogany desk sat a man who couldn't be real, sharp jawline, storm gray eyes, a presence that made the air hum. Aiden Sterling. Up close, he looked exhausted. "You didn't apply," he said without preamble. "I sought you out." Meera's pulse spiked. "Why?" Aiden slid a photo across the desk. A grinning girl with wild curls. "My daughter, Sophie. She's 5. His voice softened. "Her nanny quit yesterday. Sorry, but I'm not offering a nanny position." He leaned forward. "I need a wife." Meera choked on air. "For 6 months," Aiden clarified. "My investors require stability, a family man image." His gaze flicked to her empty ring finger. "You'll care for Sophie and attend events as my doting spouse. Compensation, $2 million. The number hung between them. Enough to erase her debts, finish nursing school, never worry again. "It is insane," Meera whispered. Aiden's mouth quirked. "Desperate times, Miss Patel." As if summoned, a tiny tornado burst through the door. "Daddy!" Mrs. Lee said, "I can't have cookies," before the girl skidded to a halt, staring at Meera with huge hazel eyes. "Sophie," Aiden said gently, "this is Meera. She might live with us." Sophie tilted her head. "Are you nice?" the last lady yelled when I painted on the walls. Meera knelt, eye level. "I love painting, especially outside walls." She winked. "Light more." "Canvas." Sophie's giggle was sunlight breaking through clouds. Aiden's breath caught. 3 hours later, Meera signed the contract in the penthouse's guest suite, larger than her entire apartment building. James explained the rules. No physical intimacy, beyond public apparence possible, discretion move. In. Tomorrow, Meera stared at the clause about affectionate behavior in social settings. Her face burned, remembering Aiden's intense gaze. A knock. Aiden stood in her doorway, sleeves rolled up, revealing intricate tattoos. "Forgot to mention we have a gala Friday. That's in 2 days. Hence the rush hire." He stepped closer. "You'll need to convince 500 people we're madly in love." His thumb brushed her lower lip, stealing her breath. "Think you can fake that, Miss Patel?" Meera's knees weakened. That's when she realized this deal might destroy her far worse than poverty ever could. Meera stood frozen in the center of the walk-in closet, her fingers trembling as she traced the row of designer gowns. Each one cost more than she used to make in a year. The silver one, Aiden's voice came from the doorway, making her jump. He leaned against the frame, arms crossed, watching her with an unreadable expression. "It matches your eyes." She pulled the dress free, a shimmering dove-gray number with delicate straps. "Can't wear this. It's too... expensive." Point. He stepped closer, his cologne wrapping around her. "Everything about us has to look real." Meera swallowed hard. Real. The word echoed in her chest. The Gala from Health Sterling Foundation Gala was a sea of diamonds and deceit. Meera clung to Aiden's arm as they navigated the ballroom, her heels pinching. "Smile, darling," Aiden murmured, his hand warm on her lower back. "We're selling a love story, remember?" "Right." Meera forced a grin, nearly choking when his lips brushed her temple. "Mr. Sterling." A woman's voice cut through the crowd like shattered glass. Victoria Chase glided toward them, her blood-red gown a warning. And this must be the mystery wife. Meera extended her hand. Lovely too. Oh, we don't shake hands in this circle, sweetheart. Victoria's smile was venomous. Tell me, how did you two meet? Aiden's always been so... private. Through Sophie, Meera said smoothly. I was her nanny. Victoria's laugh tinkled like breaking crystal. How quaint. Aiden's grip tightened on Meera's waist. Meera was volunteering at the children's hospital when Sophie took a liking to her. The rest, he pressed a kiss to Meera's knuckles. His history. The lie tasted sweet on his tongue. The wardrobe malfunctioned. Meera was halfway to the restroom when she felt the strap snap. Cold panic shot down her spine as the left side of her dress sagged dangerously. Need a hand? She whirled to find Aiden. Right behind her, his gaze darkening as it dropped to her exposed shoulder. The strap broke. I think he backed her into a shadowed alcove, his fingers deft as they fixed the fabric. Victoria's doing? She's notorious for these little accidents. His thumb brushed her collarbone, leaving fire in its wake. You've handled her well. Used to deal with entitled parents at the daycare. Meera's breath hitched as his knuckles grazed her neck. Aiden, ... double quotes, his eyes locked onto hers. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then the moment shattered as laughter echoed. Down the hall, Aiden stepped back, adjusting his cuffs. We should return before people talk. Midnight Confessions. Meera was elbowed deep in cookie dough when Aiden found her in the kitchen at 1 a.m. Flour dusted her nose, her hair piled in a messy bun. Couldn't sleep, she asked, rolling another ball of dough. Aiden leaned against the counter, watching her. Board meeting tomorrow. Couldn't turn my brain off. He picked up a misshapen cookie. These look interesting. They're dinosaurs. Sophie's obsessed. Meera hesitated. She told me today that her mom used to bake with her. Aiden went very still. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. She died 2 years ago. His voice was rough. Car accident. Or so I thought. Meera's hands stilled. What do you mean? Aiden's jaw worked. Recent evidence suggests it may not have been an accident. He looked at Meera properly for the first time all night. That's why this merger matters. I need the resources to prove. The raw pain in his eyes undid her. Without thinking, Meera reached for him. The oven timer screeched, breaking the spell. The almost kissed daddy. Look. Sophie's shriek came from the living room. They found her surrounded by finger paints. The white couch now a rainbow explosion. It's a family portrait. Meera's heart stuttered. There they were, stick-figured, Aiden with his briefcase, Meera with a mixing bowl, and Sophie in the middle, holding both their hands. Aiden crouched beside his daughter. It's perfect, Firefly. His gaze met Meera's over Sophie's head. Something unspoken passed between them. Later, when Sophie was asleep, Meera turned to find Aiden in her doorway again. You're good with her, he said quietly. Better than I am. Shh. Just needs to feel safe. Meera stepped closer. We all do. Aiden's hand came up to cradle her face. For a breathless moment, they stood there, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. Then his phone buzzed. Victoria's name flashed on the screen. Aiden dropped his hand. I should take this. As he walked away, Meera touched the spot where his fingers had been. The lines between pretend and real were blurring faster than she could handle. The private jet hummed around them as Meera stared out the window, watching New York shrink below. Aiden sat across from her, fingers flying across his laptop keyboard, his brow furrowed in concentration. Did you pack the yes? Meera cut him off. Sophie's favorite stuffed dinosaur, her allergy medication, and the bedtime storybook she likes. I made a checklist. Aiden's lips quirked. You're getting good at this. Pretending to be a mother, Meera thought bitterly. 3 weeks of living in Aiden's world had left her exhausted, playing the perfect wife at galas, soothing Sophie's nightmares, lying to everyone they met. The plane hit turbulence, jolting them in their seats. Meera's nails dug into the armrests. "Scared of flying?" Aiden asked without looking up. Terrified, she admitted, his hands stilled on the keyboard. After a beat, he reached across the aisle and took her hand, lacing their fingers together. His palm was warm, his grip steady. Better. Meera's throat tightened. No, this makes it worse. One bed, the hotel suite, was all glass and steel, overlooking the Chicago skyline. And there, in the center of the bedroom, sat a single king-sized bed. Meera's. Suitcase slipped from her fingers. "There's been a mistake." Aiden sighed, loosening his tie. No mistake. The presidential suite was double booked. This was the only option. She stared at the pristine white duvet. "Take the couch." "Don't be ridiculous." Aiden tossed his jacket. "Over a chair. We're adults. You can share a bed without." He stopped abruptly. "Without what?" Meera wanted to ask. "Without remembering how your hands felt on me in the alcove? Without wondering what would have happened if Victoria hadn't called?" A crack of thunder shook the windows. The lights flickered once, twice, then went out entirely. "Perfect," Aiden muttered. The storm Meera sat ramrod straight on her side of the bed, still wearing her blazer over her pajamas. Rain lashed the windows, casting eerie shadows across Aiden's bare chest. He'd stripped down to his boxers without a second thought. "You're shivering," he observed. "I'm fine." A sigh. Then the mattress dipped as he moved closer. Its body heat radiated against her back. "Meera, lie down." Every nerve ending screamed as she finally stretched out beside him. They lay there in the dark, inches apart, listening to the storm rage outside. "You never told me how you got into childcare," Aiden said suddenly. Meera closed her eyes. "I grew up in foster care, moved between 6 homes before I aged out." Aiden turned onto his side to face her. "That's why you connected with Sophie. She's so bright, so full of love." Meera's voice broke. "I just want her to feel safe." Aiden's hand found hers in the dark. "You make her feel safe?" Lightning flashed, illuminating his face closer than she'd realized. Their breath mingled. Meera's gaze dropped to his lips. The power came back on with a blinding flare. They sprang apart. Aiden cleared his throat. "I should check my emails." The truth comes out. The business dinner was a disaster from the start. Victoria had somehow wrangled an invitation and sat smirking at the end of the table. "Aiden, darling," she purred, swirling her wine. "I heard the most fascinating rumor about your late wife's accident." Meera felt Aiden tense beside her. "Not the time, Victoria," he warned. "Oh, but it's such an interesting story." Victoria leaned forward. How the brake lines in her car were cut. Almost like it wasn't an accident at all. The table fell silent. Meera's stomach dropped. Aiden stood abruptly, his chair screeching. "Excuse us." He grabbed Meera's hand and pulled her outside. The Chicago wind whipped around them as Aiden paced. "The rooftop terrace? She's baiting me." "Is it true?" Meera asked quietly. "About the brakes?" Aiden's shoulders slumped. "The police report was falsified. I only found out 6 months ago." His voice cracked. "Someone murdered Caroline, and I have no idea who." Meera reached for him without thinking. He collapsed into her arms, his face buried in her neck. They stood like that for a long moment, his heartbeat thundering against hers. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark with something more than grief. Crossing the line, the suite was silent when they returned. Aiden poured 2 fingers of whiskey, his hands steady now. "You should get some sleep," he said. "We fly back tomorrow." Meera took the glass from him, their fingers brushing. "Aiden." He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was teeth and desperation. His hands gripping her hips hard enough to bruise. Ira gasped into his mouth, the whiskey glass shattering on the floor. Aiden backed her against the wall, his body pressing hers into the cool plaster. "Tell me to stop," he growled. Meera fisted his hair. "Don't you dare." He stumbled toward the bed, shedding clothes like secrets. Aiden worshipped her with his hands, his mouth whispering filth that made her toes curl. When he finally slid inside her, Meera saw stars. Afterward, they lay tangled in the sheets, breathing hard. Aiden traced the scar on her shoulder, a remnant. From a foster home accident? Beautiful, he murmured. Meera's heart stuttered. This was dangerous. This changed everything. Aiden's phone buzzed on the nightstand. Victoria's name flashed again. He didn't move to answer it. Instead, he pulled Meera closer, his lips brushing her forehead. And like a fool, she did. Morning after sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the wreckage of their night together, clothes strewn across the floor. The broken whiskey glass still glinting on the carpet. Meera woke to an empty bed. She found Aiden on the terrace, already dressed, staring at the skyline. He didn't turn when she approached. About last night, she began. Stress relief, Aiden said coolly. Nothing more. The words hit like a slap. Meera forced a smile. Of course. We're adults. Aiden finally looked at her, his expression unreadable. This changes nothing about our arrangement, liar, Meera thought, because everything had changed. She'd fallen in love with him, and come morning, he'd made it painfully clear he didn't feel the same. Meera stood frozen in the penthouse foyer, her stomach twisting as she stared at the morning news headline flashing across the 85-inch screen. Billionaire's fake wife scandal. How Aiden Sterling paid a nanny to play house below it, her own face captured. Mid-laugh at last week's Gala filled half the screen. The other half showed a copy of their contract. Every damning clause highlighted in yellow. Compensation. $2 million for 6 months of marital deception. Sophie's voice piped up from behind her. Meera, why does the TV say you're not really my Aiden? Swooped in, snatching the remote and killing the screen. Sophie, go to your room now. The little girl's lower lip trembled, but she obeyed, casting one last confused look at Meera before disappearing down the hall. The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria Aiden spat, hurling his phone against the wall. It shattered. She must have hacked my files. Myra's hand shook as she scrolled through her own phone, already blowing up with messages from reporters. The merger? Dead? The voice was hollow. The board is emergency voting to remove me as CEO in 2 hours. She reached for him instinctively, but he flinched away. Aiden's expression turned to ice. Pack your things, you're leaving? The fight, you can't be serious. Meera's suitcase lay open on the bed, half-packed. After everything, after what? Aiden rounded on her, eyes blazing. After you slept your way into my bed? Was that part of the contract too? The words hit like a knife between the ribs. Meera recoiled. You know damn well last night wasn't. My daughter thinks you're her mother, Aiden roared. Do you have any idea what this will do to her? A crash from the hallway made them both freeze. Sophie stood there, her favorite dinosaur plushie lying. At her feet where she'd dropped it, tears streamed down her cheeks. You're not my mommy? Her voice was small, shattered. You were just ... paid. Meera rushed forward. Sophie, sweetheart, no? Sophie scrambled back, tiny hands balled into fists. I hate you. I hate both of you. She turned and ran, her sobs echoing down the marble halls. Aiden looked at Meera with something worse than anger or devastation. Get out. The leak source James intercepted Meera in the lobby, his usually impeccable suit rumpled. It wasn't Victoria. Meera froze with one hand on her suitcase. What? He showed her his phone, a series of encrypted emails between Aiden's CFO and a rival corporation. They've been planning this takeover for months. The fake wife scandal was just convenient timing. Myra's mind raced. Does Aiden know? He won't take my calls? James pressed a business card into her hand. His emergency board meeting starts in 20 minutes. If someone doesn't, the elevator dinged. Victoria stepped out, flanked by security. Well, her smile was vicious. The hired help finally leaving? Meera saw red. She lunged not at Victoria but at the security guard's hip. Her fingers closed around the gun in his holster. The entire lobby froze. Miss Patel. James gasped. Meera didn't point it at anyone, just held it up, watching Victoria's face drain of color. Tell me, she said calmly, did you know about Caroline's murder? Victoria's perfect facade cracked. I don't know what the break lines, the cover-up. Meera took a step forward. Were you involved? Something like fear flickered in Victoria's eyes. You're insane. Meera smiled. Clicked off the safety. Try again. The boardroom showed Onadon stood before his board of directors, his world crumbling. Complete breach of trust, Chairman Wilkins was saying. Vote is unanimous. Effective immediately, the doors burst open. Meera strode in, flanked by security, handcuffed to a sobbing Victoria Chase. Miss Patel Wilkins stood. What is the meaning of ask her, Meera said, shoving Victoria forward. Ask her who really cut Caroline Sterling's brake lines? The room erupted. Aiden's face went pale. Victoria collapsed into a chair, mascara running. It wasn't supposed to kill her, just ... scare her. After she found the embezzlement records, Aiden moved faster than anyone could react. Hit Victoria by the throat, slamming her against the wall. You murdered my wife? The security swarmed. It took 4 men to pull him off. Meera caught Aiden's gaze across the chaos. In that moment, she saw everything. The grief, the rage, the dawning realization that she'd just sacrificed herself to save him. Because now the police were coming for her too. The arrest handcuffs. It looked wrong on Meera's small wrists. Aiden fought against the officers holding him back. She didn't do anything wrong, pointing a firearm in a public space. The detective arched a brow. That's felony menacing, Mr. Sterling. Meera kept her head high as they led her away. She didn't resist. Didn't look back. It wasn't until the squad car doors closed that she finally let herself cry. The jail cell smelled like bleach and despair. Meera sat on the hard bunk, counting the cracks in the concrete wall for the 3rd time, when heavy footsteps approached. Out! You're out. The officer uncuffed her, jerking his thumb toward the exit. Someone posted bail. Meera's heart leapt and sank. Aiden, of course, he'd feel obligated. She straightened her wrinkled blouse and stepped into the fluorescent-lit hallway, and froze. Sophie stood in the waiting area, clutching Mrs. Chen's hand, her eyes red-rimmed but determined. In her free hand, she held a crumpled piece of construction paper. Meera fell to her knees just as Sophie barreled into her, tiny arms squeezing her neck with surprising strength. I'm sorry I said I hate you, Sophie whispered wetly into her shoulder. I don't. I love you, even if you were paid at first. The homemade card was smeared with glitter and tear stains. Please come home. I promise to eat all my vegetables. Love, Sophie, your real daughter Meera's vision blurred. Mrs. Chen cleared her throat. The car is outside. Sacrifice the penthouse was eerily quiet. Aiden stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, his back to her, silhouetted against the Manhattan skyline. The usually immaculate space was littered with legal documents and half-empty whiskey glasses. They're dissolving Sterling Industries, he said without turning. I'm selling my shares to cover your legal fees, and... He finally faced her, his gray eyes hollow. To start fresh. Meera's breath caught. Your life's work was built on lies. He took a step closer. Just like us. The words stung. Meera hugged herself. Shouldn't have taken that gun. You saved my life. Aiden closed the distance between them in 2 strides. Victoria would have gotten away with murder. The board would have. His voice broke. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a familiar document, their contract. Meera braced for him to tear it up. Instead, he dropped to one knee. The real proposal I had. This whole speech planned. Aiden's hands shook as he held out a simple diamond ring. Nothing like the gaudy jewels she'd worn as his fake wife. But all I can think to say is, stay. Meera's knees gave out. She sank onto the couch. Aiden, not as my nanny, not as some paid stand-in. He cupped her face, his thumb brushing away tears she hadn't realized were falling. It's my wife. For real this time. The world narrowed to the feel of his calloused palms, the salt of their mingled tears, the way his breath hitched when she leaned into his touch. What about Sophie? Meera whispered. Aiden smiled, the first genuine one she'd ever seen. She picked out the ring. A giggle sounded from the hallway. They turned to see Sophie peeking around the corner, Mrs. Chen trying unsuccessfully to pull her back. "Say yes," Sophie demanded, bouncing on her toes. "Daddy's been practicing this for weeks." Meera laughed through her tears, looked down at the man who'd gone from ruthless billionaire to kneeling mess in front of her. "Yes," she breathed. Aiden surged up to kiss her, lifting her clean off her feet as Sophie cheered. Epilogue. 1 year later, the courtroom erupted as the judge sentenced Victoria to 25 years. Meera squeezed Aiden's hand under the table, watching as the woman who'd destroyed so many lives was led away in cuffs. Justice for Caroline at last. Outside, spring blossoms drifted across the steps of the courthouse. Sophie, now 6, spun in, circles trying to catch them, while Aiden tugged Meera close, his lips brushing her temple. "Ready to go home, Mrs. Sterling?" Meera smiled up at her husband. No contracts, no lies between them anymore. Just a messy, perfect love built on second chances. She glanced at Sophie, who was now attempting to stuff dandelions into James' suit pocket. "Yeah," Meera said, lacing her fingers through Aiden's. "Let's go home."